The 2025 Penn State wrestling season is unofficially underway, and it will be officially underway this weekend when the Nittany Lions host the Oklahoma Sooners for the start of their non-conference season. Media Day was on Tuesday, and Greg Pickle, wrestling reporter, he's been here all offseason talking about their offseason international work. Now it's getting down to it. It's getting to the actual season. Another national championship run, another competition, or at least the aspirations of one, coming up starting this weekend. So, Greg, welcome to the show. Appreciate all your hard work. It was a news-packed Tuesday from Cael Sanderson's opening press conference. So, what was your big takeaway from this weekend? Or from this week?
Yeah, most certainly was, T. Frank. It's good to be here with you on the, I guess, almost eve of the Penn State wrestling season kicking off. So, yeah, good stuff from Cael Sanderson on Tuesday at his Media Day event at Rec Hall. Thank you for going over getting video, which, of course, you can find Penn State fans here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel if you haven't already. Yeah, a lot of takeaways, all pretty much lineup related. I guess let's start with the injury part of it. So Josh Barr, who we talked about previously on a show here on the channel, injured himself at U23 Worlds. He had to medically default out of the repechage tournament that sets up who wrestles for third place. And certainly if he was healthy enough, he would have competed in that because he would have been eligible to compete in that. But he was not. Cael Sanderson, maybe in the most honest moment he's ever had talking about an injury with a wrestler, took it a step further than upper body, lower body, and confirmed it was his ribs that were hurt during the U23 World Championship. So he said it's going to take some time for him to return from that. So we'll see. Like Cael Sanderson said, rib injuries are tough, T. Frank. Everyone kind of handles them differently, and at some point it becomes a pain-tolerant situation. Right.
Yeah. Like it affects everything because it affects your breathing, and it's really hard to focus when your ribs are affected by something like that. Because as you just said, sorry, continue, it's a pain tolerance thing.
It is, yeah. So they'll give him as much time as he needs, obviously. But I think at some point this year, they will be in a situation where they either have to say, okay, he is at the point of healing and he is capable of wrestling with this, or, perhaps he never gets to that point until, way down the road. We'll just have to wait and see. I didn't get the impression yesterday that was going to, or on Tuesday rather, that was going to be the case. So I would expect Connor Mirasola, of course, to fill in for Josh Barr until Josh Barr is ready to compete. Connor Mirasola, of course, looked to be the guy that would man this weight class for Penn State this year until Josh Barr bumped up to 197 and ended up finishing second at NCAA's. To return from injuries before, did so last year. Big Tens and Nationals, so certainly a guy who is used to overcoming adversity in this regard, and we'll see how long he's out for. But until then, Penn State should feel like it's in pretty good shape with Connor Mirasola.
Yeah, this is where that depth in recruiting and flexibility have really come into play for the Nittany Lions to have all of these separate options, and that was kind of the theme of the 2025 Media Day press conference was, competition at a couple of different positions, and Cael Sanderson wasn't going to reveal a whole lot, although he did at one point actually slip and reveal some of the things about the lineup. So I just wanted to get your thoughts. Let's dive into it now, talk about the other big things that came out of Media Day when it comes to the lineup and the plans for the roster this upcoming season.
Yeah, so certainly I think we all kind of had either beat around the bush, or I know some people had reported it or expected it to be the case, but it does look like at this point that you're 120. You're obviously, we're always starting with Luke Lillidahl at 125 pounds. And in that first part of the lineup, you were always going to have Shane Van Ness at 149. But then how things played out at 133, 141, and 157 was a bit up in the air. Not so much anymore. So Cael Sanderson expects Braden Davis to take a redshirt year. He expects Tyler Casack to do the same. So obviously Davis and Casack both moving up to Davis and Aaron Nagao both moving up to 141 pounds this year. That leaves 133 open for freshman Marcus Blaze, who Sanderson was incredibly complimentary of at his Media Day news conference. To move into that 133-pound starting spot. Davis, of course, finishes an All-American wrestling in that weight class last year. He will now take a redshirt season. Aaron Nagao will return to the mat after missing all of last year due to injury. A former All-American at 133, now competing at 141. And then 57, all signs point to, like I said, Casack redshirting, and PJ Duke, the standout freshman, and age group champ and medalist, things like that, from the international freestyle side of things, taking over at 157. So, we'll see. I don't envy the decision-making Cael Sanderson and his staff have to the process they have to go through to make these decisions. Like Cael Sanderson said, T. Frank, I think you heard him mention, it's really hard to redshirt a returning All-American like Tyler Kasak. So Penn State, as a matter of fact, is going to end up, if things go like we expect them to, which injuries happen, things happen, right? It's never the reason he said in the initial going that he was not going to reveal some of these decision makings decisions that have been made but then later did was that because this is really just the beginning of their process. We know how they use the Army Black Knight invite next week for wrestle offs and decision making and things like that, and they'll do that throughout the course of the non-conference portion of the schedule before the Big Ten stuff starts in early January. So that's number one. But then number two, it's because some of these guys, it's just amazing that you're basically going to redshirt 2 returning All-Americans and a former world champ in Ono, who comes to Penn State, listed on the roster at 133 pounds with junior eligibility. Like we talked about last week, the plan right now is to redshirt him this year and wrestle him next year. So how that all plays out, though, in terms of whether or not he will get some action, out attached from Penn State this year, we'll see. I'm sure they're going to try and get him to some freestyle events if they can. Time will tell on that front. But all told, or I'm sorry, not freestyle, but folk style tournaments like, maybe the Southern Scuffle, something like that. We'll see. And we'll also see who all goes to the Black Knight invite. But yeah, I mean, the lineup is pretty much set at this point. The only real curiosity is whether it'll be Cole Mirasola or Lucas Cochran at heavyweight. Sounds to me like Mirasola probably has the leg up to start the year. I would expect him to be the guy that goes against Oklahoma on Friday night, 6 p.m. Eastern time on the Big Ten Network at the BJC. But I don't think that one is over. Somebody has to be picked, right? So I think that's where it git a little bit screwy because somebody has to go out there and wrestle. And that does not mean that Penn State has locked in its long-term plans. Now, look, is it Mirasola's likely job to lose? Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. A lot of wrestling still to do, though, before that is all decided and official.
Yeah, were there other Media Day lineup discussions that you found interesting from the 30 minutes we spent with Cael Sanderson? Some of the other topics that were brought up, there was some conversation about last year. There's some conversation about process of how this is working out with some of the changes in the rules around eligibility and things like that. But, just some of the things on the table. I'm not asking specifics about those, but were there any things that piqued your interest outside of the lineup, which of course we're going to get to in our Oklahoma preview coming up next?
Yeah. So a couple things. The first one being, I don't know if by the time this airs, we may have written about it in the Blue White Illustrated, maybe not. Probably would say good chances we have at that point. But, he was asked about not going to the National Dual Invitational, which has $1 million purse and, bonuses for takedown leaders per round and things like that. And obviously when the date of that, which is this coming weekend, came out, earlier, I guess late last year, in the middle of last year, whatever it did. Penn State was one of the teams that was going to be invited based on how it finished in the 2024-2025 season. And I think most people assumed it was going to decline its invitation. It did decline its invitation. Ohio State coach Tom Ryan, speaking this week on the National Duels Invitational media call, said it's a shame that Penn State's not there. But at the same time, he also made note of the fact that the date of this event, which is this coming weekend, is not perfect. And so, I mean, you can call it a shame, and obviously every program is free to both make their own decisions about their schedule and also criticize others for it. I don't know what good it does for Tom Ryan to have taken the conversation in that direction, but, hey, whatever, no problem. That's what he decided to do. He had his prerogative as a head coach, but is it a shame Penn State's not there? Yeah, of course. I mean, I think anytime you can get all the best teams in college wrestling at an event like that, but Penn State's coming off of having 7 guys at the U23 World Championships. It is not typically putting itself in this kind of a position in terms of wrestling the top teams in the country. The non-conference schedule has really never been built that way, at least not this early in the portion of it. December, maybe, November, mid-November, no. So I think that's a part of it. So it is what it is. And you respect Cael Sanderson's opinion. You understand that Tom Ryan is sick of losing to Penn State. And certainly, it just comes back to this whole thing of, do you have a dual national champion? Do you have a tournament national champion? Or do you have both? And Penn State is strongly and has been for a decade plus now in the camp of, keeping the national tournament the way it is. And some others think that a dual meet national championship would be better for the sport to help it grow and things like that. I don't know who's right and who's wrong. I mean, like Cael Sanderson said, like, you can do it however you want. The current version of this Penn State team is probably going to win it no matter what.
Right.
And so it kind of just is what it is. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, this is an interesting event. Good on the people who have organized it and have tried to find a new way to grow wrestling fans and get top teams together. Certainly can't, degrade them any for trying to do this. And certainly I'm sure they would have loved to have Penn State there, but Penn State has its reasons for it. And so, yeah, that conversation stood out. I'm not sure if it would have if Tom Ryan from Ohio State didn't make the comment that he did, but he did. So that was that. Yeah, and then in terms of the eligibility, like as we record this in the middle of November, like there's going to be court cases and court challenges to the NCAA's eligibility model. And will that potentially lead to some kind of a temporary injunction or an order even perhaps from a court at the federal level saying that the NCAA has to allow 5 years of eligibility, 5 for 5 instead of 5 for 4 like we have now? Obviously, that would impact a lot of different things from the football side of it. If that ruling comes before the portal opens, it would change things drastically with how the portal's going to work. And for Penn State wrestling, it could change its second half approach to the whole situation with redshirting some guys. So wait and see on that. That didn't come up specifically, like the idea of potential changes did when Cael Sanderson was talking about no, but this 5 for 5 thing seems destined to happen, but you gotta work under the rules that you have until those new rules are potentially in place or a new court order changes the way things work. So I think this is the plan Penn State feels it's best right now. But as we've seen, they have no problem making changes in January or even February. If, obviously you have to have so many matches and stuff like that. There's some benchmarks that you have to hit to compete in the postseason. But yeah, for right now, that's the plan for Penn State. And if things change in December or January, Penn State will change with it.
This is the Penn State Wrestling Show here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. Subscribe here to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel so you can check out our wrestling coverage, which is going on for the remainder of the season every single week, except, maybe we got holidays and things like that. But, of course, we're going to be bringing you that information here weekly. So if you like this video, subscribe. Super helpful. Now let's get into it. We have Oklahoma, Penn State, our first preview of the season. So what do you see from the Sooners and from the Nittany Lions over at University Park this weekend?
Yeah, so Frank, Penn State going to welcome number 22 Oklahoma to the Bryce Jordan Center on the Big Ten Network. I'll be out in East Lansing covering Penn State and Michigan State football, so unfortunately will not be in State College to cover it, but should be a good one. The highlight match was going to be number 1 Josh Barr against number 8 DJ Parker of Oklahoma, transfer edition for the Sooners. That match is no longer going to take place, obviously, so I think that DJ Parker would be definitely favored over Connor Mirasola filling in for Josh Barr at 197. But Connor Mirasola is no slouch, so certainly don't think that he's a guy that can't win that match. DJ Parker, top 10 wrestler at 184 pounds. And I do want to, he transferred in to Oklahoma 2 seasons ago. So last year was his first year, or 3 years ago. So last year was his first at Oklahoma. So sorry about that. In terms of the rest of the ranked wrestlers, Barrett Jordan is number 29 at 125. These are all courtesy of InterMat. Jack Gioffre is number 11 at 149. Rafael Hipolito is number 7 at 157. So him against PJ Duke. Certainly something everyone's excited for. Peyten Kellar, Ohio transfer in number 17 at 165, now at Oklahoma. Carter Sherbert, number 33, and then Brian Soldano, number 13. So in terms of close matches here, Frank, certainly PJ Duke against Hipolito will be fascinating if we get to see that one, and hopefully we do. But we'll just have to wait and see how that all works out. And then Brian Soldano against Rocco Welch at 184, another pretty interesting match as well. So those are the ones that stand out to me. This will be a Penn State victory to continue its match winning streak that it's on. Will it be a shutout? Probably not, because you have either Cole Mirasola or or Lucas Cochran going against Juan Moore at heavyweight. I think Mirasola would be favored over him. Cochran maybe more of a toss-up, but we've seen who he's beaten in the past when he's filled in at heavyweight. So, I mean, by and large, as you would expect, Penn State has the rankings edge and the results edge going into this tournament. And so, I'm sorry, this dual meet rather. And so, as they put this version of the lineup out for this match ahead of next weekend's tournament at the Army Black Knight Invite, we'll get our first look at the structure of things and then get a better feel for it than following Sunday when they're at the Army Black Knight at West Point. But yeah, expect Penn State to continue its winning streak in dual meets. And, again, looking forward to seeing Marcus Blaze's Penn State debut, PJ Duke's Penn State debut. And obviously, what Mitchell Metzenbrink can do for an encore. The one thing that jumped out to me, T. Frank, was Cael Sanderson kind of questioning, I don't know if you took it this way, but I did. Maybe not all the starters will go because of these guys just coming back from U23 Worlds recently. Yeah. I'm not saying that that's a guarantee to be the case, but it's also not going to shock me if maybe there's some lineup changes for Penn State. A lot of these guys had a long summer. And, so it just makes you wonder, Joe Seeley on the match notes is listed as an or with PJ Duke. PJ Duke had basically 2 seasons in one, essentially, before getting to Penn State.
The travel alone would have been something I needed to recover from, let alone the actual wrestling and the performance. So I guess the thing I'm curious about is you make a great point there about what we might see, what we might not see to this weekend. But just all things being equal, which one of these new faces are you most interested in watching wrestle, if they do see the mat? So the guys that you're projecting and the guys we expect, who are you most interested in viewing to see how they do in their debut performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think to me it's probably Marcus Blaze, just listening to how, obviously knowing what he did in his high school career, and then listening to the way Cael Sanderson praised him this week ahead of what we assume will be his Penn State debut on Friday against Oklahoma. I'm just really interested to see him on the mat in a Penn State singlet. What is he able to do? Assuming he follows Luke Lillidahl and this match starts at 125 to keep things rolling for Penn State. So, Duke's an obvious next answer. And then Rocco Welsh maybe is the one that interests me the most, simply because he redshirted last year. We know he was an All-American the year before, but, he did wrestle some, and he was at, he was on the international freestyle scene this offseason, but we're just curious to see where he's at, what he's added to his repertoire that we didn't maybe get to see last year. And so I think that, Penn State went out and got him for a reason, as Cael Sanderson said. So what he's capable of doing with the opportunity he now has at State College will be very interesting to follow as well.
All right. So you're interesting to follow when it comes to wrestling. So where do people follow you and how do they follow you for more wrestling coverage?
Yeah, follow us over at bluewhiteillustrated.com, on Twitter at Greg Pickle. We will have, again, a preview of Penn State, Oklahoma, a written version to go along with this video version this week at bluewhiteillustrated.com. We will have updates from the match on Friday night. It starts at 6 p.m. again inside the Bryce Jordan Center. We'll be watching that one on TV from East Lansing. And then, we'll see how the takeaways and everything go after that, T. Frank. It should be a good opening night for Penn State, but some matches that are pretty interesting. So should be worth tuning into, and certainly hope you'll read the coverage afterwards at bluewhiteillustrated.com as well.
Yeah, and I can't wait to talk to you about the recap next week and previewing the next one coming up. We are in it now. Penn State Wrestling Show here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. Once again, I'm Thomas Frank Carr. That's Greg Pickle. Subscribe here. We'll be back next week with more from the team, all our recap of the Oklahoma duel and more. We'll talk to you then.